You're listening to the Custom Built Podcast. Today's episode, I'm going to share with you what happened once I woke up, got angry enough, and decided not to be a passive passenger in my life, and what you can do to take similar steps to take full control over your life and where you want to go. So stay tuned. Have you ever been in a moment where in your life where you just look around and you're like, what the hell have I been doing my whole life? And why am I here? Why is this a constant repetitive situation that I find myself in? And do you get angry, or is it a momentarily like frustrated thing for you and then you just kind of go back to your daily life? Or have you ever gotten so angry that you're just like, I need to stop what I'm doing and make a complete change? For me, it was a complete, I guess I can call it a rock bottom, but it was this moment in time where I just got so angry and stuck in some self pity and wallowing over the fact that I'm in a position where I literally have nothing to my name as far as assets and things that I didn't realize were important to me, and things that I realized I had no control or no anything. That if something were to happen to my husband and I was left by myself with the kids, I would literally have nothing to my name. And that to me was a scary, scary moment for me. And I just got so angry, and angry at myself, angry at him, angry at my parents, angry at just life in general, that I had a moment of just wallowing and anger. And then I finally was just like, at this moment, you either continue to be angry and just be angry with the world, or you do something with your life and you do something about it, right? You like, just, there's no point in being angry at this moment. You need to get yourself up and change it, because no one else is going to do it for you. You need to make these changes. And so it was for me a no brainer. Like I said, it was an option of just either living with this anger or making a change. So, what triggered all of this really came down to this moment in time where our house next door, our neighbors, were selling their house, and it was to a bunch of wholesalers. So I saw a bunch of people popping in and taking a look. It wasn't just like a regular listing on MLS. It was a bunch of wholesale house flipping investors, home investors coming in to take a look at this house to flip it. And I'm like, I tell my husband, I'm like, we need to buy that house. Like, think about it. We can do so much with it. It'd be amazing for us. And so we tried. We kind of did like this long roundabout way that probably wasn't the best option, knowing now what we know. But it got me to this point where I was just like, why am I, one, as a partnership, we are partners, my husband and I, but he is not my keeper and I'm not his keeper. This is a two-way street here, right? So I'm sitting here waiting for him to make a decision and giving him a lot of power here to decide what we are or are not going to do. And I realized I was relying on him to take action to get this house next door. So that was realization number one. Realization number two was the part where I have nothing to my name. And that's a scary thought for me, that I have no way of providing for us if anything were to happen. I could lose it all. And this is something that I didn't experience this with my father passed away, and I spent a lot of time helping afterwards with my mom and the paperwork. And, they had set up in a way that my mom was very well taken care of. And she, she was able to stay in her house, and bills were being able to pay. And so that to me just opened up my eyes, like, wow, anything could have happened at this moment. But because they took the time and took care of what they needed to, my mom's okay. But we don't have that situation, and we didn't have the same type of like pension and life insurance that my dad had set up through the railroad. And so I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out at this point because I've allowed myself to get to the ripe age of 30 something, and I have nothing. I'm no longer in a career. I have been spending the last 6 or so years at home with my kids, and obviously that's a beautiful thing, and I'm so thankful that that's something I was able to do for their first few years. And I cherish that. And that's not saying, I'm not saying that that's not okay. All right. So if this is something that is really true for you, I think that's beautiful. However, for me, this was a scary moment for me because I knew that I was made to do more than to just be home, taking care of the home. And I know for me, what was so special for me was just that I needed to create something. Creating is something that just drives me and lights me up. So here's my little tangent, right? So the house goes for sale. We don't get the house. I'm angry and I need to make a change. I said, I want to flip houses. I think this would be exactly what I could do. It will drive everything that I love doing. Interior design, interior architecture and design was something that I've always wanted to do since I was really little. And, I was like, I'm going to school for interior design. I ended up getting my bachelor's in sculpture, which was great. Loved it. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about, just what I love and don't love to do. And then I finally took the steps a little later on in life and got my master's in interior architecture and design. So I finally did it. I took these steps and then I did nothing with it because I'm home with the kids and a lot of places want experience, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm at this age, I don't think I really want to start from the bottom. I also don't think I want to be an interior designer anymore. And not in the sense of like I don't want to be at the end result. Like I don't want to do the finishes. I don't want to pick out your furniture and your tiles and all of this. I think that's fun and I like to see it all come together. But what really excites me is redesigning the interior architecture. And I didn't realize that was a separate thing. So, understanding how houses work and moving walls and making it more efficient. Now, that is like, let's talk about this all day. I'm excited. Let's make some designs, right? So, I realized this throughout my schooling. And so, it kind of shifted a little bit of what I wanted to do. And through the time I was getting my degree and when my daughter was born, I started another company called The Little Dinosaur and I made teethers. So pacifier clips and little teethers for babies and necklaces that moms could wear that the babies can chew on. And it was so much fun and I loved it. I also didn't realize how much overhead comes into that. What type of I was running it all. I was building, designing, and marketing. And when it comes to baby stuff, you need to really take some extra precautions, like sending them away for testing to make sure they are safe. And this is all very costly and time consuming. And when I had two little babies with me, it just got to a point where I was like, you know what, this was fun and exciting to do something and create it. But this is no longer exciting and I don't really see myself making this grow and going any further. And it went pretty good. I mean, I did a few wholesale bids, so I was in a few local stores. So and I was, I had repeat customers at our markets and it was great. It was great while it lasted and it was exactly what I needed at the time. So we fast forward back to I'm angry. I am ready to just explode on everybody and blame everybody and make the choice that this is something I realize I have control over. This isn't something that anybody else really has any say in except for me. So I decide I'm going to be a home investor and I'm going to start flipping houses. So I do my research. I find a program where there's women flipping houses. I start learning, I start training. I'm getting all this wonderful information. I'm gaining confidence. I'm excited. And, at this point, I'm growing. I'm like, all right, I'm going to really take control over myself and my feelings and my stress. And stress for me was something that would make me feel physically ill. It was controlling me. My emotions were always what drove me. There was no way that I was able to just kind of detach and just acknowledge that these feelings were happening and then sit with them and allow them to happen. I just didn't have these tools growing up, and these were things that I really had to build. And I had to figure out how to better understand my emotions. I had to get to the point where I can be emotionally mature to move and grow. And so I'm meditating, I'm doing yoga, I'm going to see a therapist, I'm walking through all these things that, in my past and things that I'm experiencing. And I'm understanding now. I'm gaining more tools in my tool belt to really move through these emotions and become calmer and understanding what it is I need to do. And so through this, I'm growing mentally, I'm growing personally, professionally, I'm understanding things, I'm learning. My husband and I are like falling into this wheel that we always fall into. So we're having like the similar arguments. And at one point when we were talking about me flipping houses, he says, "Why would anybody give you money to flip a house?" Essentially, something along the lines of this. And at that moment, I was just like, "Oh, what?" And don't tear him down, all right? This is something that we've worked through, and this was something, a moment for him that was an insecurity for him, and something that he's come to realize was a very hurtful thing, even though he wasn't necessarily saying it to be hurtful. And it was just one of those things where we're just unaware of the things that we say and how it affects other people, and really understanding that sometimes the things that we say is more reflective of how we're feeling about ourselves than it is about the person that you're saying it to. And so at that moment, I was just, I was hurt and I was upset. And I was like, you know what? Either you can support me or you don't. I'm doing this, and you are not going to tell me what I can and cannot do, because again, you're not my keeper. I'm not your keeper. We're partners here. And it probably wasn't as eloquent as me just saying that right now, but it was a really trying point in our relationship. And so I kept moving on. I kept trying and working on how I can flip these houses and what I need to do. And in that time, I find this local group for women in construction, and I meet up with them. I meet up with the founder of this group, and she suggests project managing for me, because I'm like, I need a job. I need to feel like I can bring in and support our family some, because again, through this whole realization that I've just been this passive passenger in my life, my husband has been the sole provider of our family. And he has also been a passive passenger in his own life in this moment, because we both come from these homes of very traditional lives. Our moms stayed home with the kids and our dads went to work, and our moms waited around until our fathers came back and basically dictated what we are or what we weren't going to do, right? It's time to eat dinner, dad's home, dad's late, so we're going to hold dinner, right? Like, these are things that are just like these traditional things that we grew up with, and we don't necessarily find that gender roles are like, we're not like, yes, we need to follow gender roles, but we're also not like, for me, I'm trying to break out of these gender norms. And so falling into this same thing that our families have grown up to was just like an eye-opening moment. I was like, whoa, this isn't even what I stand for. And so it was a big moment for me and then for our relationship to realize that. So for me, I realized it was really important that I had a way to contribute financially for our family, and that I can provide for all of us if we needed to, for myself if it needed to, and then for me and the kids, and for my husband, like just like all of it. I wanted to feel like I had that control. And for me, that meant I was able to provide something for our family, whether that was money or the support of the house is important, but for me, it was more of like a financial. I felt like I needed to contribute and be building something of my own to contribute for our family. And that's just what my path has, required of me. And I met up with a woman of the local group for women in construction, and she pairs me up with another woman who's been in project management for 10 plus years. So I start with her and this company where we're project managing high-end homes, historical homes, $1 million homes. And it's beautiful. Like, I'm excited. I see all these really fancy things and I'm loving it. And then I'm in this business for a little bit with this company, and I realized that we're not lining up with our ethics. It just wasn't a good fit. And so I started looking for another job in project management, because I realized I really do enjoy this. I can learn a lot here in how this can affect my home investment and flipping homes. And I realized, let me backtrack a little bit there. Flipping homes to me didn't mean that I was going to be there slinging a hammer and fixing these homes myself. I really wanted to hire these crews to do it for me. So it's very much I would be project managing these flips, because I don't want to spend my time flipping houses and spending my time building. Will I do it? Yes, when it comes down to it, and if it's something I really feel driven to. But for the most part, I don't want to be painting and hanging sheetrock and doing all that work. I want to be able to hire people to do it while I'm also working on getting another flip. And so project management made sense for me in this moment to understand the process and do it more of a hands-on experience instead of this book knowledge that I had from my interior architecture time. And so I'm working, I realize we're not a good fit. I look for another job. I find a restoration company that I'm with now. And when I was reading about it through the roles with the ad for the job, I was like, I don't think this is right. But not a lot. I've had other interviews, but they were fine. They weren't really, a lot of them weren't excited because I didn't have a ton of experience, and they were also high end builders. But I know my capabilities. I know I'm quick to learn and I'm able to pick things up. And I ask a lot of questions. So if I don't know, I'm going to ask questions. But, I also understand that there's a need sometimes that you need somebody that can just run and go and not have the time to like really handhold if you need it. So I find this restoration company. I go in for an interview. I'm there for 3 hours and we're just going over everything that they do. I'm asking all the questions about the programs that they use. And in this moment, I'm in there and I'm like, I can learn so much from this right now because we're working on homes that have been affected by fire, by water, by mold. And sometimes that means it's the integrity of the building itself. So structural damage is something where you really got to understand what you got to do and what steps you need to take in order to fix it and correct it and make sure that you're doing it in a safe way for homeowners to move back into. And so I'm excited at this point. I'm like, yeah, I actually do want to do this. I don't need to do these high-end homes. Although, high-end homes are going to have the same problems that homes that are $100,000. So it doesn't really matter. Ultimately, it's still somebody's home. And to me, like I've said before, your home is your sanctuary. It doesn't matter what size it is, how much it costs. It's still your home and it's still your place to go to. And for me, it was like, I need to help people get back into their homes and feel safe in them again and just get back to their normal or their new normal, really, right? So I've learned so much just from, taking my time in this restoration company, and what it really did, it allowed me to gain more confidence in myself, and not only just because like I'm gaining this knowledge, but because I got so angry and I stood up for myself. I honored what I was feeling and what I needed, and I took control over that. And that alone just boosted my confidence and made me realize that I am going to be my only advocate here. And I truly mean that in the way that if I don't stand up for myself, nobody else will in the way that I need myself to do. So you might have a partner or family that will stick up for you and for your honor, and that is beautiful. But ultimately, if you do not set up your own boundaries and your own defense and stick up for yourself in the way that matters, you end up not trusting yourself. And that's right there is the biggest problem. You need to be able to do that. You need to be able to stay true to you, and you need to be able to set these boundaries no matter how uncomfortable they are. Because if you're not standing up for yourself, eventually no one else will. And I could tell you it is one of the most uncomfortable things that I've ever done. And since I've set up boundaries, I've realized that I was really shape shifting around people that were reactive. So if they didn't like something I said, and I don't mean like I was being rude or anything, if I was just telling them an experience or, someone said something that I didn't realize was an issue and they reacted in a certain way, and it would trigger like all these feelings of like uncomfortable, like I wasn't safe and I had to tiptoe and walk on eggshells around these people. And it was something that I grew up around, and it's not something I realized was like that affected me until I got to this point of realization that I am really in control over how I feel and how I experience things. And once I put these boundaries up, it's really hard to not just bend a little bit and allow the other person's feelings and emotions rule how I'm going to handle this. So I might either avoid a situation or not talk to somebody about a certain situation if I think they're going to react in a certain way. But there has been times where I needed to set boundaries about what I need And it was uncomfortable because it's made them unhappy. And instead of being like, you know what, never mind, I can handle it, it's okay, I could take it on, to appease them and their feelings, I've really had to just work hard and extra hard and just say, I got to stand my ground, because again, if I don't, then they're just going to do this again and again. And then the boundary is no longer respected, because clearly they don't respect my boundaries if they're pushing past it and when I already set them. And so, as uncomfortable as it's been, it allows me, though, once I am firm in that boundary and I'm setting it up, I'm trusting myself and I'm more confident and I feel better. And it allows me to just trust myself. And once you have that trust in yourself, your confidence is just inevitable after that. You know who you are, you know that you're strong, and you know that you can take care of yourself. And this might not be resonating with you, but for me, it was such a powerful moment for me, because I didn't realize how important it was that I had my own power. I was completely handing my power away at all costs. I mean, not at all costs, but like every turn that I realized I was this passive passenger, I was consistently giving my power away to other people and letting them dictate how I moved and did things. And this happened from a very young age, when I started to realize that people are going to react in a certain way when they don't like what I have to say. And it came down to like, you're weird, Katie, or you're unique, or that was rude, or that was mean. And maybe it wasn't mean and or rude or weird and special, but I let people tell me who I was, and I consistently would put myself in these smaller boxes that I was no longer who I am, and I didn't know who I was anymore. And when I got so angry, I was like, who am I? What am I doing? I have lost my way completely. And I completely just at that moment felt empowered to take back what was mine and my power, and to really just take control over who I am and what I need to be in order to feel good and live my best life. And like I said, it was something that was really hard for our marriage, because I'm growing and my husband at that moment, he didn't have that same like realization for himself. And so as I'm growing and I'm moving and I'm changing, it felt stagnant, and we were falling in these wheels of, you know, we're having the same arguments, we're having the same makeups, and then we're still coming back and having the same issues over and over again, year after year. And I was just, again, was finally like, enough, we cannot keep doing this. Are you going to grow with me or not? Because I want a partner that wants to keep growing. I need a partner that's going to grow with me and not hold me back, where I'm going to feel resentful towards you and you're going to feel resentful towards me. And we just need to be a partnership here. And really that's what we did. And he took the time and worked on himself in the way that, he realized, like, if I want to continue down this path, like, we need to work together. And if we're going to be together, we need to do it together. And it wasn't this ultimatum, but in a sense, it was like, I need to do what's right for me, and this isn't right for me right now. And it took us a moment of separation to realize that we had our own roles to play in our marriage, and where it was at. And I again played this blaming game, and I put a lot on him. But when we took that time apart and I was able to really understand that I played my own roles in it, we were able to come back together and just really be stronger and make it work. And so we're here, we just celebrated 12 years of marriage, and we still work on it and we still need to have discussions, but we're such different people than just from that one moment of where we had to be separated in order to come to a lot of truths. And it really just shed a lot of light on our relationship, and it really forced us to be honest. And those are moments that are just so powerful and so important for us individually and partners, but as people in general, we really need to figure out how to take control of ourselves and make it something that's just so important to honor and respect ourselves, because once we have that respect for ourselves, other people will follow. And if you don't have that respect for yourself, no one else will respect you, because if you're not even holding your own boundaries, why should anybody else? And that's kind of my rant here for you. And it was just a way for me to understand what was important and get angry and really take control over how my life is going to go. And it was such a game changer for me. since then. And I could tell you, I still stress out, and I could tell now though when I'm stressing out and what's happening within my body. I'm so much more aware of what's happening now that I've had these tools and I've practiced and I've been able to identify. And as I continue my self development and my self care routines, it's just been so healthy, and healthy for just not just for me, but for our marriage and for our kids to see. And just doing something like this where I'm like, all right, mom's got to go. She's got to go and do these podcasts. Like, they're excited for me and they're excited to see it. And just that, they're excited to know that we're doing something bigger, and that's something that's so true to us. And when they see it light us up, it lights them up. And that's just such a beautiful thing that I wish everybody had access to. I mean, we all have access to it, but I want everybody to be able to tap into it and really gain that knowledge of what you need, or just start exploring it, right? You don't need to know exactly every little minute thing that you need, minute thing. But, just understanding what you need or what sounds good and exciting to you, and make it start happening. If you're unhappy doing something and it's draining you every single day, that you have zero energy to do anything else, that's a sign that you need to make a change in your life. And I'm not saying just go and like burn it all down and quit your job and leave yourself, without anything. But what can you do to start making these changes? It's just like in your homes. Like, if you come home to a space that doesn't feel good to you, make some changes and start making it work for you. It's that simple, really. And once you start coming home to yourself and building the life that you need, it's just insane. It's insane the amount of confidence and power that you feel come back for you. And it's just unreal. And I wish everybody would tap into it and just find that magic in themselves. So I would love to hear from you. Is this something that's resonating with you? Is there a time where you also had this experience where you're like, enough is enough? I want to hear your story and your journey. If you would love to share it, please do. If you find that you're in a space where you're like, I need something to change, how do I do it? Reach out. Let's talk about it. I want to hear it all. So thank you for hanging out in this long rant of my story, and I hope it's helped you. And like I said, come talk to me, and I want to hear what you got going on and how I can help you. All right, I'll talk to y'all next time. Thanks. Thank you for hanging out today. If you liked what you heard, please make sure you hit subscribe, and I hope to see you again next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.